Hello everyone, happy Wednesday. So how's everybody feeling after this new moon in Cancer that took place on Monday? And this was not just any normal new moon in Cancer that we have happening every year. This was a special new moon because, as you might have heard me talking in my collaborations that I posted during the weekend, this new moon happened only a few hours before we had the nodal shift. So the lunar nodes always change the signs together because they are in opposition, 180 degrees apart. They are actually a mathematical calculation. They are not an objects in the sky. And they moved from the sign of Taurus and Scorpio, where they were for the past 18 months, into the sign of Aries and Libra. And this took place only a few hours, literally like hour and 40 minutes after this new moon in Cancer took place. So we are putting these energies together. This is not one is separate from the other. So that's why I kept saying that this, whatever has been seeded, actually might become fully clear in 18 months, not in 6 months as is normal between the new moon and full moon. Usually we have more clarity when it's the full moon in Cancer, which in this case is going to take place on the 26th of December. But in this case, it might actually take another year because this is a huge shift. This is a huge change. This is actually discovering a true identity of who we are. Something has been conceived. There was a point of conception during these two new moons we had in March and April, the two new moons in the sign of Aries. And this is again not something that we experience every year. So the first new moon in Aries that happened on 20th of March was on 0 degrees, which is the analytic degrees. 0 and 29 degrees, they are the karmic degrees. And shortly after, we had Pluto for the first time dipping its toes into the sign of Aquarius, where it was until June 11th, and then it moved retrograded back into the sign of Cancer. So this March was a very prominent time because at the beginning of March, we actually had Saturn moved into the sign of Pisces. Then we had the new moon, and then we had Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius, and Mars finally moved into the sign of Cancer. Again, Cancer is popping out. And what is Cancer? Cancer is all about where we came from, our family, our ancestor lines, our heritage. It's also our sense of identity, who we are in this reality, and what we came here to do practically, because after Cancer comes Leo, which is our purpose and destiny. So we had the first moon in Aries on 0 degrees, and the second new moon in Aries was actually the solar eclipse, which happened on 20th of April. And again, it happened shortly after, before it happened shortly before Sun moved into the sign of Taurus. So again, it was something that was just like a change of guards. We had the new moon number 2 in Aries, 29 degrees in April, and shortly after the Sun moved into the sign of Taurus. And of course, at that time, the North Node was in Taurus, and Sun conjuncted North Node eventually. So this was the point of conception, as far as I can see, when it comes to this change in the air, this energy that is going to bring this profound transformation for all of us, because I'm pretty sure that everybody can feel it in some level, in some aspects of their life. I know for sure I can feel it, and everybody I've spoken to, all my clients, everybody can feel that there is this energy coming in the forefront, which requires complete change, complete transformation. And as I mentioned, the point of conception was in spring. So you can think back in springtime what actually was happening in your life, because now these things are starting to they're going to start to grow. So it was like a point of conception there, the cells started dividing, and now there is a baby. The baby is not quite ready to be birthed, but there is a baby in there. So a new energy is coming for sure. And actually, as I was saying, this new moon in Cancer was not just any new moon, because we had this nodal shift. And the last time we had the North Node in Aries, as it is right now as we speak, was between 2004 and 2006, December 2004 and June 2006. So we can think back in those days what was happening in our life. And again, it might give us a more idea about, okay, how is this shift going to manifest for us? Like what kind of areas of our lives is it going to affect? And I can share that for me, 2004 was the year I left Slovakia. I left my country of birth for the very first time. And it actually took me a year to learn English good enough to actually get a normal job in England. I was a nanny. I was a living au pair. So I actually didn't speak much English, and I didn't have a normal job. I just came to England. I thought I was just going to stay there for 6 months or 1 year, learn English, and then come back. And that actually never happened. So the rest is a history. But yeah, the 2004 year was a huge shift in my entire life, because until this point I hardly left my country. I barely traveled, and ever since I've been I've been traveling. And now actually last year I left England. I've been leaving England like here and there because I was working on cruise ship. That was actually when the nodes were reversed. But last year I completely left England. I no longer live there, and I've been changing locations ever since, and I'm still not fully settled. Where am I going to stay? I don't know. But for example, that's what's happened for me. So I can remember that, oh, this was a huge shift in my life, because it completely changed my life that was before then and after then. It was very, very different kind of life. And I'm pretty sure that there was something huge that happened for probably everyone between the years 2004 and 2006. And now North Node is in Aries again, which means that again there is this new something coming, this new energy, this new beginning, this new cycle in our lives, in our evolution. And also Mars is the North Node is in a sign of Aries, and Mars is the ruler, and Aries is the cardinal energy, and Mars actually at the moment is in a sign of Virgo, which is the mutable energy, which means that we have to be flexible, we have to be open-minded, because we don't know exactly what is coming, because it's unknown territory. It's like when I came to England in 2004, I didn't speak any English, never been to England before. I had no idea. I was 19 years old. I just left school, and I was like, I don't even know what it means to be an adult, how to take care, of myself without my parents being around and stuff. So that was a huge shift in my life. And now another huge shift is coming, and the fact that it's happening on the same day as new moon in Cancer. And again, Cancer is all about our identity, our safety and security, about where we came from and where we're heading. And because this new moon was trine by Neptune, and actually this trine is becoming exact tomorrow, which again I want to mention that is very interesting, where we had all these aspects already active, but not in an exact degree, but already active, so already happening within the orb. And that was still under the influence of North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. And these are all feminine energies. Very well, there was a lot of water in this new moon in Cancer, because of course Cancer is a water sign, moon is watery, and moon is ruler of Cancer, and it happened on Monday, which is the day of moon. And also we had the trine from Neptune. Neptune is water. Neptune is in Pisces, again water, a lot of water. South Node in Scorpio, water. But so that was the receptive energy, the feminine energy. But now when these aspects are becoming exact, they're becoming exact. So for example, the trine between Sun and Neptune is becoming exact tomorrow, and this is already during the influence of the nodes in masculine signs. So the North Node is in a sign of Aries, and this is a fire, and the South Node in a sign of Libra, which is air. So these are both masculine signs, and this is a completely different energy, because this is not just energy or like, okay, let me feel into it, but this is like, okay, let me feel into it, and now what am I going to do about it? And the fact that Mars is in a sign of Virgo, and the first aspect Mars made as soon as it moved into Virgo was actually a trine to the North Node at the time in Taurus. So it's again based on the past 18 months and the opportunity to get to know ourselves and who we are. What do we want to do? Like, how do we want to apply that into our lives? Because now this Mars in Virgo is saying that, well, we need to adjust, we need to learn and adjust, we need to create this sense of competency and self-mastery. And how are we going to do it? Well, we have to know ourselves. So that's why we had this opportunity for the past 18 months to do exactly that. And now is a showtime. The energy is not fully clear because we had a new moon, so it's the dark energy. And in this case, as I mentioned, this is not just any normal new moon, so we might not know the resolution to all of this in 6 months, as is normally the case, that we might have more clarity. And in this case, the full moon in Cancer will be on December 26th. And then we actually have another year, because this all happened together with the nodal shift, and the nodes will remain in these axes, Aries Libra, until January 2025. So it might take that long for us to fully understand the impact of this new moon that just happened. And as I said, this is all fascinating because of the breadcrumbs, because of all the stuff that's been happening in springtime. And as I said, Mars was at the time in Cancer, so Mars was traveling through the same territory when this new moon just took place. And again, all these aspects that are taking place exact this week. So, for example, tomorrow is the trine between Sun and Neptune. And what is this trying to tell us? Like, okay, well, now we had a opportunity to get to know ourselves, and now perhaps we have a sense and feeling about who we are and who we no longer are. So what do we want to dissolve? What do we want to let go from our life, so we can create space for these new things to come? Because with both Saturn and Neptune being in a sign of Pisces retrograde, and actually Pluto being back in Capricorn retrograde on 29 degrees, and the resolution being the South Node, but the South Node is now in Libra, is no longer in Scorpio. So this is definitely saying about, now that we know ourselves, because the North Node was in Taurus, that's all about you, who you are. Now the North Node is in Aries, which is like the path of self-discovery. Is not just about what matters to me, but actually where do I want to go? Is this instinctual desire to take an action, to go. And the South Node is in Libra. So based on what I know about myself and my sense of self-worth and my needs, how is this going to impact my relationship? And for sure, it is going to impact all our relationships, because as soon as we change and our needs and values and our belief system change, our environment reflects it back to us. So that means that now that these changes are starting to take place, is going to reflect in our lives. And some of these changes might not be easy, because once we try to set boundaries where there were no boundaries before, and try to actually put ourselves and our needs first, then it might not be accepted just like, oh sure, with our relationship and our environment. So there definitely will be adjustment that needs to take place. And that's why Mars, at the time when North Node moved into the sign of Aries, ruled by Mars is in a sign of Virgo, because it's saying like, well, I don't know what I don't know, so I better go out there and learn and then adjust, because Virgo is all about learning and adjusting, and eventually we achieve the point of self-mastery. So yeah, so tomorrow we have the trine, as I just mentioned. I'm sorry it's so hot in here, so yeah. So we have the trine, and also tomorrow we have a Mars opposition to Saturn. So again, Mars is in a sign of Virgo. It's exactly like literally is talking the same thing from the different point of view. So Mars in a sign of Virgo is once again, it's going like, okay, well, I need to learn what it is that I need to eliminate in order for me to be able to go in this new direction. And this Saturn, that is was the structure of my reality before, and it gave me definition and sense of structure previously, is now dissolving. And now Mars is saying, okay, Saturn is dissolving all that was stable before. So now what do I need to do to learn skills and to actually find out what can be done in order for me to feel more in control, for me to feel more closer towards this sense of purpose and destiny, which I came here to follow. Because Mars is the ruler of the North Node now, and North Node is the evolutionary potential for the human collective, and Aries is all about you. It's all about self-discovery. It's all about instinctual desire to go and follow this purpose that is coming from the seed that is inside of you, the seed that knows what it wants to become, and it's inside of every single one of us. That's why no one else can tell anybody else what is their purpose and what should have a meaning in their life. It's impossible. And that's why the South Node is currently in a sign of Libra. And Libra is the relationship. And now South Node is saying, well, we need to let go of everything that we externalize. We externalize our power because we believe the other. We didn't trust ourselves, we believe the other. And where did it get us? To point of to situation where we feel disempowered and we feel codependent, and we feel unsure, we feel insecure of ourselves. But now Mars being the ruler of North Node, it goes like, I don't care, I'm just gonna go and find a way, new way. Mars in Virgo, right? And as soon as Mars moved into the sign of Virgo, it made a trine to positive aspects to the North Node at the time in Taurus. So that was literally like, okay, now that you know yourself, let me come and help you to learn the skills you need to know in order to go in this new direction. So that's exactly what Mars is doing here in a sign of Virgo. And actually Mars is going to move into the sign of Libra soon, and eventually it's going to conjunct the South Node. So it's gonna be like, okay, what are we letting go of here? No, like the rule of the North Node is gonna conjunct the South Node. So like, yes, we can bring the lessons of the past with us, but we don't want to repeat the past mistakes. We want to make a new choice under all circumstances, isn't it? So there is nothing exciting happening on Friday, but Saturday is really loaded because, as I might have mentioned, if not in this video, definitely in my previous videos with my friends, this new moon happened in opposition with Pluto. So we had new moon in a sign of Cancer. Pluto is currently in the sign of Capricorn, retrograde on 29 degrees, but the opposition wasn't exact. But even though it wasn't exact, the new moon still was squaring the nodes at the time. North node, still in a sign of Taurus, was the resolution. So again, it was like, okay, what did we learn in the past 18 months? And North node pointing to Venus, because it was in Taurus, so the ruler is Venus. And Venus is in Leo. Venus is like, I just want to do what makes me happy. I just want to go and follow my sense of purpose and destiny so I can have my needs met and be happy and have this great life that I desire. But now Venus is actually going to go retrograde. So this is where it gets interesting. So we had a new moon, the square, from the new moon we had a square to the nodes, resolution North node, rule at the time by Venus being in Leo. But now, actually tomorrow, we had the exact opposition between Sun and Pluto, and Sun squaring the nodes at the same time, because Pluto is squaring the nodes from the other direction. But this time, the ruler of the resolution node, North node, is Mars. It's no longer Venus, it's actually Mars. So last week when we had a new moon, this was already happening. We already had the opposition to Pluto and square to the nodes from the moon, well, Sun and the moon, the new moon. However, there was a completely different energy, because at the time it said like, okay, resolution North node, you need to know yourself. It's all receptive energy. You need to know yourself. Jupiter is also in Taurus. It's teaching us about ourselves. Literally, Jupiter being in Taurus for the, until next May is actually, this is like you are your own self-study. You learning about yourself, because then you learning to apply it into your life so you can liberate yourself. Jupiter is going to make conjunction to Uranus next April. And actually Jupiter in Taurus is also showing us where we need to expand, where we need to grow, where maybe we don't know everything. Maybe there is more for us to know. And as I mentioned, tomorrow these squares between Sun opposing Pluto, and then subsequently Sun squaring the North node, where the resolution ruler is actually Mars now, the ruler of the North node, and Mars is in Virgo. So now the energy is different. So now it's saying like, okay, again, now you know yourself, you had the opportunity to learn about what matters to you, what are your needs, values, to learn about your sense of self-worth, and do you love yourself, do you feel you deserve or not? And now this North node in Aries is saying, okay, now we're gonna start this new cycle, we're going in this new direction, but we don't have all the tools, because we're going into unexplored territory. Aries is a new beginning, and it's like, okay, we start in a new cycle, because we close the old one. Well, that's what Saturn and Neptune in Pisces are working on, and also Pluto on 29 degrees of Capricorn. This is nice. One more push. Well, that will be another one next year, where it say like, okay, I'm taking my power back. I'm internalizing my authority. I'm no longer wanting to externalize it. But again, North node in Aries. Okay, Aries, you want to go in this new direction to follow your sense of purpose and destiny and do what you feel instinctually drawn to, because you know that you have the seed, the knowing, the wisdom within you. But then between Capricorn and Aries, there is a natural inconjunction. So the Capricorn goes like, okay, kiddo, you want to be responsible? Well, do you know how to do it? Like, are you all like mature and ready to take responsibility for your action? And do you actually have the emotional stability to do that? Like with the new moon in Cancer. New moon in Cancer is also about, we have to take emotional self-reliance, like not to rely just on the external to make us feel good about ourselves, but actually be able to self-soothe, to self-nurture. Because if we are externalizing our needs and our power, that it makes us feel disempowered and codependent and sometimes angry and frustrated and wanting to lash out. And now Mars being the ruler of the North node, Mars is like full of fire, like, yes, now he's in Virgo, so he's like, grounded, like, okay, let me go and be practical here. But then Mars is going to move into Libra. It might go like cause all sorts of arguments in relationship, like sever in relationship, because Mars is like cut like a sword. And then after that is going to go into Scorpio, where it's going to be in rulership. And then it's like, okay, well, Mars in Scorpio, that's going to be interesting, being the ruler of North node. But anyway, that's for another time. But going back to this square that is going to become exact tomorrow, this is exactly the energy which we are supposed to, which we are invited to and supported to actually acknowledge that, okay, well, the resolution North node, we are starting a new cycle, going in a new direction. Do we have the tools? Do we know how? Because Virgo is the know-how, the humble energy of like, oh yeah, I have all this inspiration, I want to do all this creative self-actualization. But then Virgo goes and like, okay, but do we have the tools? Do we know how? And then crisis. And then Virgo goes like, okay, well, let's go and learn, let's go and learn. Virgo is very practical. It's like, and it's mutable energy, which is like, okay, well, whatever we need to know, there is no right and wrong. Let's just go and try, right? And then at the same time, tomorrow we have Mercury, not tomorrow, Saturday. This is talking about Saturday. I'm getting my days are so confused. I'm completely losing a perception of reality, like which day, what time. If I didn't have my calendar, I would be completely lost. So on Saturday, when all this is happening, the exact opposition between Sun and Pluto, which is the point of integration. If you want to be your authority, you actually have to be emotionally self-reliant, and you have to feel safe and secure within yourself. You have to trust yourself. And actually, it's interesting that on that day, Moon is actually in the sign of Virgo. So this is like great, because obviously Moon is there together with Mars, and Mars is the ruler of North Node. So again, like, well, Sun is still in the sign of Cancer, so it's ruled by Moon, and Moon in Virgo, like, okay, well, this is what needs to happen. We need to learn and discern, is this the right thing? And if yes, then what does it take? What do we need to learn? And as I started saying, at the same day, Mercury in Leo is making a trine to Chiron, and this is the energy of the future, because all the positive aspects that happen between Pluto and other planets, when at the time Pluto was in Aquarius, where the other planets that were trining Pluto were in a sign of Gemini, ruled by Mercury. So that's why Mercury has this energy of these upcoming times, because Mercury is also a messenger. Mercury connects the invisible world and the visible world. Mercury can travel all between different dimensions. That's why, like, it's not linear. Nothing is linear. And Mercury in Leo is trying to help us to connect, make a bridge between our rational mind, the left side of our brain, and also our ego and our intuition, also our heart. So Mercury is also trining Chiron, which again is telling us you actually need to know who you are. You need to trust yourself. You need to be able to connect the dots, because again, the trine that happened between all the signs, in the sign of Gemini at the time of Pluto being in a sign of Aquarius, is talking us about thinking outside of the normal, like think outside of the box, connect the dots, see the patterns. And now Mercury being in a sign of Leo is trying to help us to understand, like, what is actually the direction we want to go? Like this Leo, how do we want to creatively self-actualize? And again, Mercury is the ruler of Mars at the moment, and Mars is in the sign of Virgo. Again, what do we need to learn? What do we need to adjust? Which way? Which direction? Like mutable energy. There are all these different options, all these different ways that can happen. And in a trine in the sign of Chiron, this is a very supportive aspect, because Chiron, as we've been talking about, Chiron is all about helping us to start this new cycle and go in this new direction without feeling guilty for it or ashamed, or without feeling that I don't deserve and all these things. Like, actually overcome this insecurity and fear of starting something new and stepping into the unknown, but just go for it. Just trust yourself. You can always find a way. You can always find new tools. You can always seek for new information. So Mercury being in a sign of Leo and wanting to help us to find the way to identify how can this happen, how can this be done, this life where we can do what we love and be happy and be authentic and have this childlike innocence and actually enjoy life, and just don't take it so seriously. And making a trine to Chiron is saying exactly that. Well, there is this new direction possible. We just need to believe it. We just need to trust ourselves. We just need to know that we deserve. And why is this all fascinating? Because actually Venus is also in the sign of Leo. And Venus is going to station retrograde a day later. Well, for you guys in US and across Atlantic, it's going to be still on Saturday night. For us here in Europe, it will be very early Sunday morning. So Venus stations retrograde, like literally shortly after Mercury will trine Chiron, and Mercury is in the sign of Leo. Mercury will actually make conjunction to Venus just before Mercury will move into Virgo, so that I believe is going to be on the 28th. Yes. Mercury is going to conjunct Venus just before it moves into the sign of, it's actually going to be day before. On Thursday 27th, 27th of July this is. So this is why it's so important, because Mercury just made a trine to Chiron on Saturday. Shortly after, Venus, the current ruler of Mercury, is going to station retrograde. So Venus is actually currently the ruler of the South Node. So Venus now is like, okay, well, we need to go back over this because we actually need to figure out what needs changing, like with regards to relationships and how we're relating and how is this supporting us or not supporting us to have our needs met, just as we had the opportunity to learn about ourselves in the past 18 months. So Venus will station retrograde, literally half an hour, even not that, 20 minutes after, Sun is going to move into the sign of Leo. So eventually Sun will conjunct Venus, and Sun in the sign of Leo is in his rulership. Sun is like, oh, I'm at home, like now I can shine and I can do what makes me happy and I can sit on my throne and just be generous because I'm in my domicile, I'm at home. So Venus is stationed in the retrograde in Leo because Venus is going like, okay, well, maybe there is something we need to go over again because I'm not quite sure if this is what still has a sense of meaning for me, because maybe this was something that had a sense of meaning for me because I believed it because of other people I was with. Maybe I was projected onto or something. So this Venus is now like not quite sure. She's going like, okay, I thought I knew this. I thought I knew what I want, but now I'm not so sure because now Mercury is gone through the sign of Leo, and Mercury was like, okay, well, let me help you to connect your left and right side of the brain, your logical mind and your intuitive sense of self, also the connection between the ego and the heart, the child, the inner child, the higher self. And now that Mercury has done that, well, Mercury is just going to, shortly after Venus starts going retrograde, he's going to conjunct Venus. So Mercury is just going to go like, okay, well, I'll be passing on all this message, because Mercury now had this opportunity to accumulate all this information, and Venus is now going to go retrograde. So in her process of reevaluating, going over things and going, actually, does this really matter to me, or did I just want this because of appearances, because society expects it, or somebody else, or my boyfriend expects it, or my parents expect it, or something. I don't want to hurt people, I don't want to disappoint people, because this is the the Libra aspects. Like, we just want everybody to be happy and people to like us. But now South Node is in Libra, so it's like, meh, do I really care anymore? Am I here to live my life or other people's life? Because everybody actually want to be happy, but it means different things to everyone, and that's why people need to figure out what it is and then put a boundary around it, because we can't go to other people for permission to live our life in accordance with who we are and what matters to us, because that's never going to happen. So this Venus is going to station retrograde. Sun is going to move into Leo. Now I'm talking about Sunday. For some of you, Saturday night, but let's say Sunday. Sun is going to move into the sign of Leo. So happy birthday to all Leos, especially my good friend Marissa. Happy birthday. And a lot of other people that I know. I'm not going to name all of them, but happy birthday all Leos. So Sun is going to move into the sign of Leo on Saturday night for most of you. And that means that, well, now Sun is going to shine. So there is a lot of help coming, because now Venus is confused. Venus is, I need to go retrograde because I'm not so sure what matters to me anymore. Now that the South Node is in a sign of relationship, I'm not so sure if it was me or the other that made me think that this is the right thing for me. So now Mercury has gone through the sign of Leo, and obviously it's just trine Chiron by this point, and Chiron is like, yes, new direction. And Mercury like, okay, buddy, I found all this information with regards to the ego and the higher self, and let's make a sense out of all of that. Now Sun is going to move into the sign of Leo, so it's like, Sun, the king, is in his homicide, is in his kingdom, and he's gonna just go and observe and like, okay, well, I just want to be happy and I just want to do what I love to do. I want to self-actualize, right? So all these energies on Leo, and Venus is retrograde. And on the same day, we're going to have the first square between the nodes and Pluto, but now nodes being in the sign of Aries and Libra. So the first square is going to take place right after Venus station retrogrades, Sun moves into the sign of Leo, and at the same time, there is a first square between the nodes and Pluto. And actually the resolution this time is the South Node in Libra. So this is no coincidence. This is like, can you literally see how everything is connected here? That we have the trine between Chiron and Mercury being in Leo, ruled by Venus. Chiron is the wounding, is the new direction that we are all heading into, but we are insecure because it's very different. It's like undiscovered. After this new moon in Cancer, we all feel like a little bit down because we feel like I don't know who I am, because I remember who I was in 2004, but now I'm a little bit confused about where I'm heading in my life and what do I want? Do I want the same thing? Do I want something different? Because when something like 2004 happened and there was all this new energy, it was like excitement, but now it's like, but I don't feel inspired about this anymore. I want new beginning. Like, this is old now. And so we had this trine. Then we had the oppositions, all this exact opposition between Sun and Pluto. So it's like all this point of integration that is required, which literally means that we have to become someone new. We have to become a new person to create new outcomes. So like, okay, what aspects of myself are stopping me from living this life that I want? And is it actually to do with me or to do with how I allowed other people to have a power over me? So then we have this square to the nodes, resolution north node. Okay, we need to try something different. The ruler is Mars in Virgo. We need to learn and adjust. Then we have, like I said, the trine, this trine between Mercury and Chiron. Then we have Venus station retrograde. Venus is saying, okay, let me go and again reevaluate if this is what I always wanted, or this is what I got from my parents or from my boyfriend or from my boss or whatever. Like, this sense of what I want. Is this actually what I want or not? And then Sun goes into the sign of Leo. So like, don't worry, I'm gonna shine the light on it. Here, this is my home. I know my home very well. I know exactly what's here. And then right after, we're gonna have the first exact square. So Pluto is square in the nose this entire year. But there are 3 hits when the square is going to be exact. And that's on 23rd, 25th, and 28th of July. And the first one is happening on the same day as Venus station retrograde. Sun moves into the sign of Leo. Then we're going to have the first square. Resolution is the south node. Look at your relationship. Are you externalizing your power? Do you think somebody else's needs are more important than yours? And then if you don't get your needs met, does it actually make your relationship happy? Or does it make you angry and resentful or frustrated or what? So this is something we have to start asking ourselves, because Mercury is in Leo. Mercury is going to move into Virgo next week, like very quickly. Mercury is very fast this month. And then Moon, then right after this square takes place, Moon is going to move into the sign of Libra. Well, isn't this interesting? Because the resolution to the square is the south node in Libra. So Moon is going to move into the sign of Libra. And of course, eventually, in 2 days, Moon is going to conjunct the south node, because south node is on 29 degrees. They're going backwards. Planet is going forward. And on the same day, if it wasn't enough, Chiron is stationed in retrograde. And Chiron is in the sign of Aries, ruled by Mars. Mars is in Virgo. So can you see, guys, how this is all repeating itself? Like literally everything, all the planets, the way they are positioned and how they communicate, they're doing exactly what they need to do to create this energy, to support us. So literally all of them are just showing us the same thing from different angle. So now Chiron is going retrograde. Well, what is Chiron trying to do retrograde? Well, Chiron is in Aries. Chiron wants us to believe in this new earth, believe in this new beginning, and believe that it's possible, even though it's scary, and even though it makes us feel insecure, because it's something we have never done before. It's the first time, like when we were babies and we learned to walk because we didn't know how to do it. We learn everything. There was a point in everyone's life where everything was the first time, everything. And the first time is always like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. So Chiron is going retrograde because Chiron is going to help us. It's okay not to know. It's okay not to know, because this new moon in Cancer happened in trine with Neptune. And Neptune is like, well, whatever you want, I'm bringing the information from the source. So you can just be okay with the unknown, because everything is changing all the time anyway. And everything is happening exactly as it's supposed to support us on our evolutionary path, because that's exactly what it always is. So again, this Chiron going station in retrograde in the sign of Aries on 19 degrees, and actually at the same time, Mars is in the sign of Virgo. This is, let me actually check what is this Chiron doing when it's stationed in retrograde, because I really don't have the brain now to think about it. It's gonna trine Mercury, so isn't that great? So Chiron is going to trine Mercury, and Mercury is what? Mercury is the ruler of Mars, and Mars is what? Mars is the ruler of North Node. So can you see, guys, how everything is connected here? So Chiron station retrograde to go and help us to get more confidence. Like, don't worry, guys, everything and everybody's life at some point was for the first time. But we all survived. We all got to this point to listen to this video, if you are still listening, and gone like, okay, well, yes, it wasn't easy, but I made it. And now it's like, nah, yes, now it's easier because it's a routine, yes? So this Chiron, when it stations retrograde, is going to trine Mercury. And Mercury is in Leo. And I mean, it's still trining it. So that's great because we had the exact trine on Saturday, right? I mean, today is Wednesday, but I'm talking about Sunday here. So it happened on Saturday, this trine, the exact trine. So of course, it's still active. And yeah, so this is great because Mercury is still going forward. It's not going to go retrograde until end of August. So Mercury is clear. Mercury is clear on what it, where it's, how it's thinking, what it's going, where it's going from. So yes, so Mercury is trying Chiron, and Mercury is saying, yes, I'm figuring out the way how we can make this happen. You know, this connection between the child, the inner child, the higher self, and the ego. How can we make the bridge? How can we make it work? Because we need ego. You know, we need it because it's making us. You know, it's helping us to survive. It's protecting us. The only problem is when the ego gets in charge. You know, there has to be a balance. Or, you know, if ego is doing what it needs to do to support us to follow our purpose, it's all good. But if ego goes like, no, I'm the boss here, forget about your higher self. Don't worry about it. It's all about logic here. Then it's an issue. So yeah, so Chiron going retrograde, trine in Mercury. And Mars being in the sign of Virgo is definitely going, well, don't worry, we're gonna figure it out because Mercury is going forward and Mercury is the ruler of Mars and Mars is the ruler of North Node. So this is where we're at, guys. So I hope, again, this made sense because it's been a really weird week. I mean, it's only Wednesday, but it's been so many heavy energies. I mean, with this Chiron, this Cancer new moon, it happened in an exact sextile with my natal Saturn retrograde in Scorpio. So like, okay, kiddo, do you feel confident to be your boss or not? Like, are you in charge or not? And literally, it's been such a funk this week. Like, so many weird energies, so much of a memory is coming to the surface. And this was going on even before the new moon, like all this nostalgia and walking down the memory lane and feeling confused and feeling lost and feeling insecure and feeling like I have no idea where I'm going. Like, literally, guys, I have no home. So I literally have no idea where I'm going. Like, yes, I'm visiting my folks, but it's not my home. I don't even have a Slovakian citizenship anymore. It's not like I can live there. So yeah, so the whole world is your oyster. So that's why trine from Neptune, like, don't worry about it. The whole universe is your home. So, you know, you just have to trust. So yeah, so that's what's happening, guys. So this is the energy of this week. So if you've been feeling in a funk and if you've been feeling down and if you've been feeling nostalgic because like all this insecurity and the past feels like it was safe and secure and now we don't know where we're heading, but we're kind of excited because, you know, like the old doesn't particularly work anymore, but there's nothing to replace it in. Well, because we have to create it. It's North Node in Aries. We are at the brink of creation, brink of creating the new earth. It literally, it's all happening. Everything got activated. It got, the conception happened in springtime. Now we had the activation, new moon, you know, the baby is there, it's not out yet, but it's there, it's definitely coming, and it's coming. So this is the beginning. So of course we don't feel like very confident about it because it's a new beginning, but it's okay. You know, just remember when you were a kid and, you know, you got on that bike for the first time, you got to the school for the first day, you had your kids for the first time and all the rest of it. Nobody was born, no, I mean, yes, we all know our higher self knows the wisdom is within us, but in this human experience, in this avatar, in this Cancer identity, ego identity, this is where I came from, this is my name, this is my family, this is my past, we don't know everything. We're just trying to remember, to reconnect with our higher self. So anyway, guys, this is what it is. I'll leave it at this. Again, long video. And yeah, if you have been a interesting week, all sorts of mixed emotions, just, you know, just have a compassion for yourselves because that's exactly what's going on out there. The ruler of the North Node is in Virgo. Virgo is a mutable sign, so we are not supposed to have it all figured out. We're just learning. We're learning, we're identifying, we're discerning, we're feeling into it. And yes, we'll take an action as soon as we have all the answers. Oh, actually, we're never going to have all the answers, but as soon as you feel like, yes, I'm ready to go. So anyway, guys, the next moon is the full moon. Yes, full moon in Aquarius. So here we go. So as I mentioned in my previous videos, this is a very interesting phenomenon that's happening this year and is going to follow next year, where we have in the full moon first and then the new moon of that month sign. So yeah, so what does it mean? We are deprogramming the past and we see it in the new but we don't know what it is yet, because we're not continuing the old story. The old story is being finished, and then the new is being seeded afterwards. So that's exactly what's happening now. So just take it easy. 2 more retrogrades by the end of the week. So we'll have all together 5, and there'll be more coming in the upcoming 2 months. So yeah, it's a time to really retrospect, observe, discern, and learn and adjust. So have a good rest of the week, guys, and I'll be back on again soon. Much love. Bye.